Now be honest, when you think of MGs, what sort of car springs to mind? Is it a small two-seater roadster with an abundance of chrome Ross-style wheels and a B-series engine? Probably. Or is it a 2.5 litre naturally aspirated V6 super saloon? Probably not, but they made one, and what a thing it was. Hello and welcome to the MG ZS 180. Now today I have the keys to this, a bit of an unsung hero, an underdog. You could be forgiven for not recognising it. It's a 2002 MG ZS 180, quite a significant car for the marque, and today we're going to have a look inside and outside of it, under the bonnet, and get it out on the road and have a real deep dive into what this car is. So let's crack on. The MG Z series of cars was a rather interesting thing. The brief was simple, sporty performance at affordable prices, and it's something I think they did rather well. But let's dive into the history a little bit. Humble Honda underpinnings, MG engineering and Rover design. When you say it out loud, it sounds rather odd, but the product of it is exactly what I'm sat on the bonnet of. The MG ZS was effectively a Rover 45 in a quite aggressive racing suit. So let's talk about it. When BMW acquired MG Rover at the turn of the century, they wanted to modernise and revitalise the brand, but gave the MG Rover engineers little to no budget to do so. And as such, they decided to utilise some things from Rover's back catalogue, one of which was the Rover 45, which is why you can see a great deal of the body style in the ZS. Where the Rover 45 was a slab of old England, a comfortable cruiser, a gentle thing, the ZS was the opposite. It was the rogue cousin. It was fast, it was aggressively styled, and it was just a little bit rakish. Whilst the standard MG ZS fit the brief in its own right very well, the MG Rover engineers decided they could do better. And thus the ZS 180 was born, a more exclusive, even more sports-focused super saloon, if you will. At a time when manufacturers were downsizing and turbocharging, they stuck a naturally aspirated 2.5 litre V6 under the bonnet, made styling more aggressive, and just pretty much turned everything up to 11. The ZS 180 was a real underdog. It was quick, there was no getting around that, and it was great value for money. However, it never really sold that well, and that, in my opinion, is a crying shame. I've said it a few times in this video and I'm going to say it again, but the MG Rover engineers did a very good job with the limited budget they had, and I think that really does speak for itself in the cabin. Yes, there are some cheap materials here and there, and the fit and finish isn't perfect, but it's a nice, comfortable place to be, and to an extent, it's well laid out. There's a few oddities here, my main favourite being the driver's window switch is on the door panel, but the passenger window switch, nope, that's down there. We've got these lovely sports seats in the front with blue pleather and some classic late 90s, early 2000 pattern fabric upholstery. They really do hold you well and are quite comfortable. And in the rear, there's actually plenty of room. Even as a fully grown adult, you've got a lot of legroom and a lot of headroom. It's a nice place to be, and if my only complaints are an odd window switch layout and the classic sagging headliner, I'm really not too bad off with a ZS. It's under here that we find the piece de resistance, the 2.5 litre KV6 Rover V6 engine. It fits very well in this car and gets it along the road rather nicely indeed. Horsepower, that's around 175, top speed 139, 0 to 60 in about 7.3 seconds. This was a quick car and putting out some respectable figures for the time. Now, as you can probably tell from the anodized blue intake pipe that you can see on camera, these do have a great scope for modification. Parts are readily available and they're pretty cheap as well. This is a very cheap way into performance motoring. So, MG ZS out on the road, what's it like? Well, there's no getting away from it, it's astoundingly quick. It is incredibly deceiving and hard to wrap my head around the fact that this, in one form or another, was a Rover 45. It's an entirely different animal. That 2.5 litre KV6 engine is a very, very good thing. There's no lag, it's instant on the power delivery, and it gets up, and it just seems to go. There is just an abundance of torque right the way through the rev range. Now, ride does leave a little something to be desired, but I suppose if that's what you were after, a comfortable cruising saloon, you would have bought a Rover 45. This ZS is harsh, to say the least. I can feel pretty much every imperfection in the road surface. Refinement is not a friend of the MG ZS, that's for sure. There's a fair bit in the way of cabin creak and rattles, but you have to remember this is a model developed on a very tight budget, most of which went towards developing the driveline, which I certainly don't have any complaints about. That being said, these sports seats are actually very, very comfortable, and they're holding me really rather nicely. I've got a 5-speed manual gearbox, and it's a good one. The throws are nice, the clutch feels good on this particular example. Obviously, I'd like a 6th gear, but beggars can't be choosers. It is a much faster thing than I was expecting, especially when you consider this is 2 decades old, this car. It feels like it could keep it up there with the rest of the modern boys. Road holding is rather good. It's generally quite precise in the corners, and the steering has a good weight to it. It's not too heavy, and in the same sense, it's not too light either. It's well balanced. I have to give it to the MG engineers, who were given a rather unenviable task on a shoestring budget. They've done a very good job with this car. It's not perfect, but given the circumstances, it's an incredibly good effort. So, the MG ZS 180, what do I think? Well, I went into this with a little bit of a negative view, as I think many people do, of the modern MG Rover era. But it's actually a very good car, especially at its current price point. Some dealers are asking £10,000 to £12,000 for these, but you can get them a lot cheaper than that. And for that sort of money, this is a very, very good car indeed. 175 brake horsepower, sub 8-second 0 to 60. It's a quick thing even by today's standards, and yet it's a very usable, practical thing at the same time. MPG can be around 29-30, which is livable. You've got a nice big boot, 5 seats. There's very little not to like with one of these. Yes, there is a little bit of a cheap feel, but I'm not too fussed about that. When you get out on the open road and put your foot down, I'm fairly sure you'll forget about some cheap plastics on the inside. Thank you very much for watching our video review of this MG ZS 180. I do apologise, it's been a little bit noisy and a little bit dusty today. The farm that I'm on is currently in harvest, so it's all guns blazing. But if you like this sort of thing, please do check out our other video reviews. And if you have a classic car to sell, please do get in touch with us at classiccarbuyer.co.uk. We'd love to hear from you. Bye-bye.